Hello, my friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family.
Hello and welcome back.
So, I love to just shed lights on things that most people probably don't have a clue.
This one needs some light.
Yeah, it's fascinating. So what you're looking at there is an actual King James Bible. And it's a big one. It measures 12 inches wide, 18 inches long.
I wonder how long it took to make that thing.
Oh, a long time. I mean, people would actually be working. This would be like their life work, in so many ways. So King James Bible is perhaps, and I think it is, the most famous version of the Bible out there.
I could never understand why, though.
Well, I don't know. It just seems like it's one of those things where people don't know why, but they just do.
Yeah.
They take it as the best version. And so we see James VI of Scotland, King of Scotland from, we see 1567 to 1625, and the first Stuart king of England. And English historians have tended to portray him as a coward and a fussy and foolish pedant, the wisest fool in Christendom. In fact, he was reasonably successful in his main goals, which was increasing national prosperity, maintaining peace with Europe, and settling the church. Today, he is remembered for commissioning the so-called King James Bible, or Authorized version. And on the west wall of the Lodge Hall used by Lodge Schoon and Perth No. 3 in Perth, Scotland, can be found a mural depicting King James VI kneeling at their altar at his initiation. The oldest existing record of the lodge, called the Mutual Agreement of 24th of December, 1658, records that James was entered Freemason and Fellow Craft of the Lodge of Scone on April 15th, 1601. So, in other words, King James, that authorized the King James Bible, was a Freemason.
Things that make you go,
Yep. And so James also appointed William Shaw as Master of the Work and Warden General in 1583 with the commission of reorganizing the Masonic craft. In 1598, Shaw issued the first of his statutes setting out the duties of Masons to their lodge and to the public, imposing penalties for unsatisfactory work and inadequate safety practices. Shaw drew up a second statute in 1599, wherein the first veiled reference to the existence of esoteric knowledge within the craft of stonemasonry can be found. So it's so interesting because you'll have a lot of people of a very, very fundamental point of view that are terrified of Freemasonry, but yet the man that authorized the King James Bible was a Freemason. He was initiated into Freemasonry, and he also was reforming it and guiding it.
That's a pretty big deal. It really is.
And this is the type of thing that so many people are just not aware of. As you see here, King James, the founder of Freemason lodges. Yeah, the history of King James' role in the formation of Freemasonry is mandatory reading in the Hiram Key Book of Masonic Scrolls attempting to link Christ with the Pharaoh. So there you go. So Masons understand that. And I've had a lot of friends that are Masons, and most people have the right intent when they're going into it. They think that they are doing something good. They're getting involved in something good. And you don't really start learning until you get up around that 33rd degree, all the intricacies and how things work. But, there have been a ton of different Freemasons. And it's not just Freemasons. There's many other, quote-unquote, secret societies out there. As we've spoken of before, the Skull and Bones Society, for instance, which is over at Yale. And I've personally walked, right by it and knocked on the door. And it really had a very, very creepy vibe. You could feel the vibe there. Well, three Bushes, were part of that society. Both presidents and Prescott Bush also part of that society. And supposedly they have the head of Geronimo there, the skull of Geronimo, which if they do, and even if it's not Geronimo, but somebody else's, it's kind of a disrespectful thing.
Well, it makes you wonder why. What do they know that we don't know? stuff like that.
So, it's just fascinating that people don't understand all these things. And this is a very, very interesting little article that gets into who really wrote it. And, it just opens up a wide chasm into some things that people won't be able to accept. So Francis Bacon and the inspiration of the 1611 King James Bible. Francis Bacon, very, very famous person. He's really interesting to read into his life and his works. And especially when we look over, like when you think of the greatest, one of the greatest authors of all time, we'll think Shakespeare.
Yes.
So many people think that are very learned that Francis Bacon was the one that wrote the Shakespearean works and not Shakespeare. That Shakespeare was basically the cover. And Francis Bacon was the brain behind this. And also, Francis Bacon had definitely taken part, many believe, in putting together this King James Bible. So, in effect, you could say that the King James Bible perhaps was authored by the author of Shakespeare's works.
Well, he certainly has the talent to do it.
The way with words and all. See, this is how things... you could start linking things together, and you see the influence of secret societies really in the world at large. And it's pretty fascinating. So Sir Francis Bacon was the first Viscount of St. Albans. He was born on 22nd of January in 1561, well known for his contribution to science. In fact, science and research is what it is today because of Bacon. So he had a huge influence. Many people don't understand how influential he is. The methodology of science and research, something we may not even think about as having an origin of ever not existing, was Bacon's brainchild. He's the father of empiricism. This is how things are so entangled. And when you think about like creating a whole line of thought, here is a man that's had tremendous influence. And of course, the King James Bible has had tremendous influence on society. And yet, Freemasons.
Yep.
This is how public opinion is formed. This is how people's mindsets are put into a particular box that is framed by these people that are, the elite of the elite. And it's very, very fascinating. And I got all these links for you guys. One of the other things I wanted to mention about Sir Francis Bacon is a book that was published only after he died, and it was entitled The New Atlantis. It was probably written around 1623, but not published until 1627, a year after his death. And so it takes the works of Plato and Atlantis, and it's talking about a new Atlantis, a new utopian society. And so when you get into it, this was a very influential book because the system of governance described therein is what the founding fathers adopted.
Very interesting.
Very much so. So here you go. So this is, way before, again, 1627, and of course, the famous 1776. So, 100 and almost 50 years later, the founding of the United States. And the system has already been laid out in this book about the new Atlantis. So again, were they trying to create a new Atlantis here in the United States?
Well, I think they kind of currently are.
And, right now we're probably looking at the decline of the new Atlantis with what's happening in the country right now. But it's fascinating. And when you look at, who these people have been throughout history, we have 14 U.S. presidents that were Freemasons, including FDR there. So many. It's just mind-blowing. George Washington. And then if you also add in, like Skull and Bones and other secret societies, You know, the, gosh, what's the ones that meet out at that place in California with the owl? I'm drawing a blank here.
Somebody will know.
Yes, you guys know. And then we see Ford there and Reagan there, as well as other, very powerful people like Kissinger. Secret societies, Bohemian Grove. Okay, so secret societies, they form our reality. They've been forming our reality. It's George Washington, the founding father, who also owned slaves, James Monroe, Andrew Jackson, James K. Polk, James Buchanan, Andrew Johnson. Now this is what you call, no offense, kind of a resting bitch face.
Brutal.
It kind of is, James Garfield, William McKinley. Yeah, he looks very stern too. Theodore Roosevelt, Bole. William Taft, Warren Harding, FDR, Harry Truman, and Gerald Ford. Yes, yeah, we've had them controlling and forming our reality the whole time, and even before the founding of this country.
It goes deep. It goes really deep. So that's something to think about.
So there again, control by religion, control by politics.
Yep.
So that's something we should keep in mind as we are coming to a very, very tumultuous time, that we will not be pulled into the drama.
Please don't get pulled into it.
As always, my friends, thank you for your support on Ko-Fi and Patreon. God bless and namaste.
Namaste.